Hi there. Welcome to Tech Talk Weekly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is our weekly show where we give you 3 or 4 interesting science and technology stories that are in the news this week. Get you on your way in about 20 minutes. This is episode number 252. We'll talk about that at the very end. There's no special guest today. Again, we'll cover that at the end. What I do want to point out to everybody is we have got some new news that normally we would probably just casually mention or maybe not even put it on the show. But Artemis is going to launch early, which is a big deal because they are now talking possibly as quick as mid-February, which moves the timeline up by 8 to 12 weeks, which in space terms and rocket terms is a leap. But in theory, the rocket is already stacked, as they call it. It's already assembled and put together. So this article here has got a really good graphic for you to show why this is important. Because this is going to be the farthest any human has ever flown away from Earth. A nice good image here of how far going out that is. And when they're down here at point number 5 on this diagram, that means they will have reached farther beyond the moon than any of the previous Apollo missions or anything. And then they're going to come back and splash down in the Pacific Ocean with everything going well, we seriously hope. And so I'm looking forward to, in the middle of February, spending a couple of days really pondering and watching with bated breath that this mission goes out and back and pulls off everything just wonderfully. We did cover Artemis 1 before, and you'll remember we did a bonus episode a couple of years ago with the landing crew, the ones that recover the capsule that are in the ocean, Slade Peters, the lead engineer. So those episodes are back there to watch. So this is something that's a really cool thing to pay attention to in the early part of next year. We'll find out exactly mid-January to late January what the actual launch date is, because it'll be based on timing and weather and positioning and everything. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there for that. The other very cool bit of space news is there's a brand new satellite images that came out this morning. So this is kind of breaking news. And you'll see how crisp and clean these images look, even on your screen of watching a screen share. And when you go to this link and see what these images from NASA look like, they are amazing. These are the first run through. There's one from North Dakota and one from Maine that they have put up to give you an idea of the new quality that they can do with these. Just taking a look at these to see exactly how the difference is between a pasture and a forest and different types of crops that are out there and all of the things that they can tell nowadays. And this is in the publicly available stuff, not just the super top secret US military satellite. This is an open one that's going to be available. All this data will be available to all of us to be able to view and see. Starting in November, they've released these couple of images first to give us a taste of what's happening. And then in November, we're supposed to start getting full data sets. And if you're thinking, wait, Bob, didn't you talk about this before? We did. We talked about this when they launched the first of these satellites up there as a test last year. This is one that was launched earlier this year out of India. And it is now up there and working, and we're getting our first results back. So again, science works. You got to give it a little bit of time, but it's a really great program here. One more quick story to hit on that comes back to one of our previous episodes from earlier this year. You might have remember when we talked about ticket scalping and AI and Ticketmaster and all those. Well, the FTC got a new lawsuit out on Ticketmaster for allowing scalpers to knowingly break their system and buy tickets. And if you're like, well, that sounds crazy, why would they do that? Here's the trick. If you were to set up 8,000 fake accounts and buy tickets on each of those fake accounts, even using AI, you would probably get busted for buying that many tickets. But if you're a scalper who goes in and creates 8,000 accounts and uses AI to buy up all those tickets and then turns around and resells those tickets on Ticketmaster, not only does Ticketmaster get a cut of the money for those tickets when you first bought them, but then because you're reselling them on Ticketmaster, Ticketmaster is getting another cut of the next sale also on top of everything. And so they were either turning a blind eye or intentionally allowing scalpers to use these high pressure systems, just like stock traders do, to get in and out of a thing really fast. Same kind of idea of allowing certain people to get in and out of the Ticketmaster system to buy and sell tickets that fast. Not a really good thing. Just in a 4-year period, one person, 13,000 accounts that they used to circumvent the Ticketmaster stuff that Ticketmaster allowed them to do. Yeah. And you wonder why your concert ticket prices have skyrocketed. So hopefully they will be able to do something about this. I do not hold out a lot of hope for it because Ticketmaster does have the numbers closer to 80% of all tickets sold in the United States, at least, are sold through Ticketmaster. So we have our it's good work cut out for us to try and fix this problem through our FTC, etc. It's the FTC because it's considered a trade, just like stocks are, etc. So that's why the FTC is involved. Just so you know which government agency is dealing with that. One other thing for you, and there's a really great graphic here on critical minerals. And the reason I bring this one up is it gives you an idea of what the U.S. government has cited as being these minerals are the ones that they have said are the most important for us in the United States to have a stockpile of, to be able to do our manufacturing, to be able to create and build and do things. And you're not going to recognize most of these because they're rare earth minerals that are used in minute amounts in various things like batteries or circuit boards and all those other types of things. But we don't have them, and we need to buy them from someone. So rhodium, for example, if we were to go 1 year without being able to get them, we would lose $64.3 billion in the United States as part of our manufacturing sector and things like that. So it is a very significant number, even if you have no idea what most of these minerals are. I mean, even if you get down to aluminum, $1.5 billion loss if we don't have access to more aluminum for a year because of the limited amount we have stockpiled, et cetera, and stuff like that. So it is a good chunk all the way down. They did it as a nice little solar system atomic model kind of thing. So it's kind of nice like that. You will notice that lithium down there is all the way down here in the bottom at only 34 million. Because the United States actually has lithium stockpiles. We just find it easier to buy it from other countries rather than mine it ourselves. So there's some interesting little tidbits there for you. It's a fun little thing to look at and say all of these pieces that make up global trade, all these things that need to be moving around the globe for all different kinds of economies to work and make our technology happen. So then we get to our two big stories for the day. I grabbed 2 copies of this. These 2 stories both came off of Rest of World. Again, one of those sites that you should be reading to see people's perspectives from outside of the United States and Europe, depending upon where you're listening to us from. Or you may want to listen to BBC or Washington Post or something like that if you're outside and in the global South. But for the people here in the United States, go find out these sites and go test them out. First story is why Chinese tech workers have been here, trained here in the United States, worked here in the United States, and then went home to China. This is not a recent, the last couple of months thing. This is over time because of various pieces of how you can do your visas back and forth, the ability to just the ability to travel, and options for what comes out for government assistance. And by government assistance, they equate a lot of that, not just giving incentives to a company to open a plant, like you may have seen in the news, Hyundai opening up a plant in Georgia with other issues, and they had tax incentives to open that plant. Volvo, similar plant opening up in that same area. But these are also things like cost of business, just doing business in various places, cost of living that goes with all of these things and stuff. So they give a couple of interesting people. One of the reasons I mentioned Volvo is an international car company. They do everything. They have plants here in the United States. They have plants in China, and people are moving back and forth between the two to work in various places because they want to build and grow their places. The couple of interesting ones down here, besides Volvo, X-Real, which I'm going to bring up in our next stories, is coming here, doing some stuff and going back and forth as part of the tech innovations. And one of the new things over the last 2 weeks, and especially this last week that happened, was the U.S. administration has put in some new H-1B visa restrictions. Key is $100,000 per person that the company has to pay, or the person coming here has to pay for the visa. And one of the reasons I put this story up is that it highlights that it's not always easy to see the implications of doing massive changes like that. It would feel like, well, obviously people are just going to pay the money if they want to come here, or they just won't pay the money and they won't come. All of those visas are based on a lottery. We have X amount of visas that we allow every year for people to come into the United States as workers. And depending upon how many you need as a company, you are entered into a lottery to see how many you will get. But now that we've made the cost of joining that lottery $100,000 per person, each company is going to have to be spending millions of dollars to bring in multiple people. And those problems, those companies will obviously, if you think about it, will be only the very large companies that can afford to bring in a large number of people, and smaller companies will only be able to bring in a handful of people. But if you're a larger company and you can afford it, you're going to have more slots in the lottery. So it's much more likely that you will be able to get the workers you need versus a smaller company that only can get so many slots in the lottery because of that. So paying attention to how these things all jump back and forth. And again, it's all based on the globalization of what happens. People come here for training and want to stay here, but quite often can't and have to go home under visa restrictions. And some of that will become work from home or work remote. And some of it will be opening up, as we saw in the previous story, opening up your company in another country so that you can progress and do what you want to do and build what you want. Something to pay attention to. And again, I want to point out, this is not a US versus China thing. This is a global thing. I'm not trying to imply that there's only two countries that have to deal with this. A good chunk of the African continent, their top tech people have gone to China or the United States for training and then come home to Africa and to the various countries to build their companies. So it's a very good thing. It is a very good thing. We need lots of different opinions, lots of different viewpoints to help build better tech, to help build better algorithms so that everyone is represented. Last of the stories for the day is ambient computing. And I know the headline here is, we need to talk about smart glasses, and I've got another story here about Xreal and how their glasses compare to Meta's and things. And these are both very good stories for you to read. I want you to go in and look at these with a clear eye. I want you to think about the idea of, this is perhaps not just another gadget, and this is not VR. It's not quite AR. Remember, virtual reality, you go to a place. Augmented reality, you're bringing something new into your space. So these are not quite augmented reality. They're not quite AR yet. For the Meta glasses, for the Xreal, they're not even trying to be that at all. But what they are trying to be is ambient computing. And by that, I mean you have a device, glasses, that allow you to access computing at any time you want without having to pull out a phone, without having to do anything obtrusive of pull up a phone and bring up the camera to take a shot or to look up something or anything. It's all just off of your voice and or quick, easy menus that you can tap and maneuver through on your glasses. Some people may remember Google Glass and the controversies that had back in 2013, 2014. These are different. You can see that this looks very normal. This looks like it is a regular pair of glasses. And some of them are just regular glasses with a little bit of voice things to them. Amazon has a pair like that. No cameras. These Ray-Bans have cameras in them, so you can take a picture and send it, post it to social media. You can do things. There's a recording light. There are cameras and there's a light showing that you're recording. Can you bypass that light? Questionable. Some say it's easy. Some say it's hard. Some say it's not possible. We will find out as more and more people start walking around with these. And that's what I want you to think about. We live in a different time now than it was 10 years ago, definitely 20 years ago when smartphones first came out. Everybody back then was frustrated, upset with people pulling out their BlackBerry and always being addicted to their BlackBerry and doing all their stuff on there and doing emails and doing the things. And now we are on the ability to do so much more with just a pair of glasses that's on your face. Everyone will adjust to this. And I want you to think about it with a clear eye that you may have some reservations about what company is tracking this data and building this and going with that. And that is very valid. But the idea that you should be able to tell people what tech they're allowed to use versus not allowed to use is becoming very hard to determine as part of your interactions out there. And especially those who are worried about cameras and doing things like this. We talked about this last year when the original first Ray-Ban came out, Meta Ray-Bans came out, and they did a test case to show how you could do this and access publicly available databases to get information about what you're seeing and people you're seeing, etc. And you cannot ban these. They're glasses. I will have a very good ADA lawsuit against you if you try to ban me from wearing my glasses that I need to wear. So we will be having these discussions of what our society is going to be like over the next few years. There is one bonus link. I'm not going to bother to show it on the screen, but there's a bonus link because there's a brand new documentary about book bans that's coming out tomorrow. So I want you to go take a look at it. It's a nice little review from the BBC, or from The Guardian, I apologize, on that. And that brings us to the end of the show today and forever. This is our last episode of the Tech Talk Weekly series. We will still be doing the Creation Station monthly series. I will put a bumper into your feeds to show you that it's the end of the weekly series, so you don't get confused when you only get an episode once a month from now on. If you've subscribed, and I hope you stay subscribed, also on the YouTube channel to see exactly what's coming up. So with that, I want to thank all of my guests over the last 5 years. Yeah, we're deep into season 5. We almost did an entire, like I said, 252 episodes of just the weekly show. We did a lot of these, and I used a lot of different talent and a lot of different people to help me out to pull this off. So I want to thank everybody and thank the libraries for allowing us to experiment and do this brand new thing. Thank you for that in the comments there of liking what we do. Come back next Tuesday. We've got a special little monthly show for you, and we will see you then, everybody. Have a great weekend.